we're split between features and commercials and TV, so I'm going to just bounce between two types of templates. Program works the same in all templates, just obviously the chart of accounts will be slightly different. So starting, you want to start with the program. The program comes with about 40 or 50, and we continue to add. If you go File, New, you'll be able to see that we have a tremendous amount of templates. Anything from studio to low budget, AICP for commercials, a lot of foreign templates as we get them, UK commercials, Belgium, Australia features, Canadian, and it just goes on and on. As the program keeps exploding, right now I think we're in over 30 countries, close to 15,000 users, and we keep getting templates from all over the place. So we have features, TV, commercials, events, still photography, video, reality has been added. We have a lot of reality people using it. So you can just select the template you need or anything close and then modify it for your own needs. If you're not tied to one of the big studios that has a template, you can just create your own template for your own company. So basically you would open one of these up and start working. I'm going to work in two files. Those of you who have the program, you will have these demo files with your program, so after you can look at them if you want to. I'm going to follow along the tabs along the top of the program, and I'm running this off of version 9 on a Mac, but it does work on Windows as well, so you can work on either platform and share files with anybody who's using the program. All right, so starting with titles. Titles is the top portion of the front page. This is the feature demo, and just basically what I have here are columns. This has the headings, and I can type information like here's a director, here's John Smith as a director, location, and the information. So I can set this up any way I want. In features in TV, there's really no standard, so you can set whatever you need. You can go edit and add, and you can add as many rows or columns that you need. So for example, let's say I want to add 5 more rows. I can go ahead and add 5 more rows, and I could add as many columns as I need as well. You also can go ahead and open up the wrench over here, and you will see all sorts of formatting options. One commonly used tool is, you'll notice over here, let's say I type the headings or labels of the fields. I can unlock them. You see it darkens when I unlock them and darken them when I lock them. When they're darkened, lightened, and locked, I can try to key, but it won't let me. And usually you do that is when you set up your template and you're working with freelancers, you don't want to change your template, so you can lock the fields. As I said, this is a feature template right now. I'm going to just jump over to the commercial template. And here you see more of a standard AICP template. And this has, on the titles, all the standard fields that you would expect to see on an AICP form. So you can, here again, go ahead and add as many lines as you want. This is more of a standard, so it makes it easy. That's what people expect. But you can go ahead and change the lines to anything. All right. And if I go back to feature, I'm back to my template. So you see I can keep as many budgets as I want open, and then I can go ahead and customize this. Also, a couple of tools that you have here. Here we have, you can add or insert additional titles pages. One of the benefits of that is if you have additional forms that go with your budgets, you can add them. So for example, in the templates, I'm going to go File, New, just to show you an example. And we have AICP with production talent specs. This happens to be a template that was built for commercials that happens to have additional titles page built into it. So I have standard AICP form, But I also have attached to this a talent spec form and a production spec form. So these happen to be just two forms that I created. Now I have a lot of clients who create other types of forms, and you can attach them so they're always part of your budget form. So that's handy. Also, if you, let's go back to the ICP titles, the standard titles page. Another option I have is if I'm a freelancer and I have different companies I'm working with, I can go ahead and highlight, let's say, the address and save the data and save it as XYZ, let's say. It will then save that information, and I can actually go ahead and reload that. So let's say I want to wipe that out, and wipe that out. And then I can go load data, and there's XYZ, and I can go ahead and bring it right back. And you can highlight any portion of the form and save it. So if you want to save more than just the address, you can do that. Somebody's asking a quick question: what does AICP stand for? That's Association of Independent Commercial Producers. That is the organization that sort of administers the AICP forum. That's just the standard commercial organization that a lot of people in commercials belong to, and if they don't, they use their standard form, which is pretty common. Okay? All right, so let's close this template and we'll continue. And the next tab is comments. Comments are the bottom portion of your budget where you put a lot of the assumptions or any type of information that you need. So I have notes in here for various reasons, just showing on the demo. A good example of a standard comment that might be in a template, I'm actually going to go back to the commercial template. And on there, you'll see the first line: this bid is submitted under stipulation adherence to AICP standards. The AICP requests that that line be in all AICP budgets. So that is entered and saved into the template. So when you take one of these templates and you want to go ahead and modify, add your own rates, add your own information, you can then go to File, Save as Template, and this will allow you to save all the information as your template so you can open up a quick budget and start budgeting very quickly. All right, and you see here I have other notes in here. So anything like you might have a special effects package or whatever else in commercials or features or TV that you want your client to know. And so basically the assumptions that, so this way nobody's guessing. So additional information is actually, if you go past the information here, it will overflow. You can actually key as many pages as you want. All right. And another question came up: can you import AICP Excel plugin data into Showbiz? The only thing, what you can import, and we'll get to the import area, is from point zero, which a lot of the old AICP, a lot of people in AICP used to use an older program, and it's still around. We actually own that. That's an older version. And we import actual logs, but the budgets it does not import, okay, because we need to know the mapping and the form. So right now we only really import the actual logs, such as a PL log, check log, I should say PL log, payroll log, and so forth. We can import from point zero. All right, and there's a whole bunch of other things that we do import from. I'll show you when we get to that. Also on the comments, you also have, you can bold, underscore, italicize any of the information here. You also have a color wheel, and this allows you to highlight any of the information, and let's say you want something bright red so it stands out you can do that as well. All right. So those are the first two tabs, and I say those are the easiest tabs, mostly cosmetic and setup. And once you set that all up, uh, it makes it a lot easier. So you're not going to have to create the titles page every time. Once you set up your templates for your company, you should be all set to go. And maybe you'll modify that, but they'll be there. Comments, you probably need to add just information per budget. Then we go to the next tab. And as I always say, this is where the fun begins. Because you have a lot of room for customization. There's a lot of tools here. Some people don't use as much as they really should or could. So I'm going to jump back to the commercial template for a second. And we'll be in summary. Now, just so you know, this is a standard AICP form. And you see it adds all the sections, A through K, and subtotal, and then L, and then another subtotal, M, N, O, and P. We didn't make that up. This is a standard AICP form. Now, if you go ahead and go to the feature template, and there are many feature templates, you have a standard above the line and below the line type structure. And this is more common in features and long form, where commercials, music, video use the AICP form. Okay? You don't have to, but it's just that's traditionally what's done. All right, quick question came up. And the question is, I work for different production companies and sometimes have budgets open for different companies. If I forget to change the setup in the PO section and print the POs, it will use the last production company information, which is sometimes incorrect. And I have to reprint with the right company. Is there an automatic way for Showbiz to pick up the production company name from the title page? That's actually an interesting point because, yes, it does default. So, Jordan, I have that question. That's something I'll take note of and might contact you. But what Jordan's saying is the default from the last company will come out. And I actually can see that. Nobody's brought that up, but it actually is a valid point. So we'll look at what we could do about that. Which brings up another point you should know, especially if you're users of the program. If you have suggestions ever like that, feel free to let us know. Because something like that, it's a great point. Nobody might have ever brought it up. It's amazing how many suggestions we get that with all the people using it that might never have been mentioned, but it's a great idea. So that's how the program continues to be enhanced. So always feel free to send me emails with suggestions. And if it's doable and it makes sense, we're always glad to continue to update. Okay? So we are on the summary page. And whether you're on AICP or a feature or whatever for that matter, and I'm going to go back to the commercial because I have a couple of things set up here already. And what you have here on the cover page is a column estimated. Now I can go ahead and change my view, and I can go ahead and change my view, and I have two columns now. And in here, what we have is a working and an actual. Okay, and I'm just adjusting the screen here so we can see this fully. All right, so we have here a template which has estimated working and actual and Canadian. And we have another view which just has estimated working and actual. Okay? So these are called phases. And what the program gives you the capability to do is modify and create views on however you want to see the program. And there's many different ways that you might want to see it. In commercials, a lot of people use estimated working and actual. And I'm going to go back to the feature And here I have budgeting actual, budget actual. All right, here's a budget actual and a variance. And in features, you might also want to do a course report format, which has budget actual to date, EFC, ETC. Okay, so there's many things to do, and I'm going to actually open up another template, file, new, and you all have that in your demos if you have the program. And I can do AICP 3 City Master. All right, you'll notice here we have New York, LA, Miami, and that I have that totaling up. So in the phases, what you have the capability to do when you create a new phase, I can go ahead and set it up. And let's say I have New York, LA, Miami, and then I have a total. I have the total summing up New York, LA, and Miami because I want to total it up. Now, if you're TV, you might want to have episodes and have them totaled up also. The types of phases we have are sum of estimates, sum of actual, custom summation, which allows you to subtract or add phases together. And in that case, I utilize it to create, let's say, an ETC, which is the estimate to complete, which is basically the difference between your EFC and your cost to date. We also, in version 9, those of you who've been on the program for a while, we've added a custom average. And a lot of our episodic TV people requested the custom average. So this way you can create a phase that will automatically average out the cost of, or the estimate for that matter, of what your phases cost or estimated at. Okay. So you can set those up. You also have the ability to customize your currencies. So the phases can be defaulted to different currencies. Let's say you're shooting in New York and London. So you can set up, for example, let's say I want to shoot in Miami and I want to shoot in London instead. I can go ahead and change this to London. Also, something that's new for your older users, you now have the capability to customize the color of your phases right here in setup. So this way, if you want it to stand out or show different colors, you can do that. And I happen to have sterling set up, and I'll show you that where it's set up. But that has a currency conversion. Now I can go ahead and close that, and I'm showing dollars and total. Now you'll notice London is still US dollars. The reason for that is if I go to tools, then I go to currency, I can then see all my currencies with the conversion rates. Make sure you don't trust our rates. Make sure you update them. And then you'll notice I have everything clicked on dollars. But if I want to keep everything for the time being in their native currency, then now you'll see that in pound sterling. Okay? So that allows me to have up to 10 currencies at a time. And believe it or not, the program allows for up to 256 phases. Most people never use that much, but the reason we originally created that for somebody who was a broadcast client who was doing something like a soap opera, almost an episode a day. So they wanted to break everything by episode. Okay. Quick question came up. What does EFC and ETC mean? Sorry for all the abbreviations, but good questions. EFC stands for estimated final cost. That's used as a standard terminology on the feature and TV side. ETC is estimate to complete, which is usually the difference between your EFC and your cost to date, though some people do reverse EFC and ETC in their course reports, so that's up to you. The titling, you can name anything you want. Well, like in commercials, instead of EFC, people use a working budget. So it really doesn't matter what you title things. Program allows for that. Okay. So back to the two templates that we're working with, and look back at the commercial one for a minute. And we're back on the summary page. So most of the summary page will be a total of categories. And you have here let's say insurance. In commercials, insurance is a percentage of A to K. So you can set up what's called a contract fee. Click on the left button, and I have this as 2.5 in the estimated and the working. I could show a percentage. And just so you know, if you want, highlight that and go edit and edit, that will give me the option to click, and you see I have A to K, so that's why it's the target, as it says up here, for the percentage calculation is A to K, which it should be in commercials. Some people in Canada do A to K plus directors. Had somebody who does A to K plus post. So you can then just check off post as well. It's really up to you. We just set up the standards, but you can customize it any way you want. Okay. All right, and if I jump back over to the feature, you'll notice down here we have some more contract fees. The standard one, the features are contingency, bonds. Now also what you have the capability to do is set up a contract fee for tax incentives. So you can do a discount, let's say of 30%, I'm just making that up, of the discount. You set as many of these up. Now you can do, in this case, I set it up as an overall discount. So it's discounting the whole budget automatically. But you also have something that's called accumulators that can be utilized if you want to do the tax incentive tracking and discounting more accurately, because this way you then can do it line by line, which would be the more accurate way. Some people quickly at the beginning, first round on a budget, will do a just quick discount on the whole budget, but then go through and do the whole thing accurately. So there's ways to add that in more detail. All right, a couple of questions came up. Ignore this if too ignorant. Don't worry about it. No question is too ignorant. Are totals computed by the software? Do you compute them and just send? No. Everything is automated. The totals are totally set up and automated for you. And it's not like a spreadsheet where you can screw them up either. They're locked. But you can customize things to your own needs. So, yeah, everything is totally automated in the system. All right? Don't be afraid to ask any questions. Nothing is ignorant. All right. So we'll continue. I'm going to go back to just the time being the commercial. And while we're in it, I just want to go into views for a couple minutes. And here we have, as I mentioned, views. These are the views I have set up. On the right side, as you click between the views on the left, you see which fields are being used. Okay, so some people might do set up a view with different fields. So I might have a normal budgeting view. Maybe I want to set up an external view. And a good example I always use is, let's say I make nasty comments about people on the job in the notes. So I don't want to show it to my client. So I can go ahead and uncheck that. And when I go back in, I will then not be seeing the notes field. It's not deleted, but in my different views, I can decide what to look at. Also, in the different phases, you'll see there are all sorts of different fields, and you can decide what fields you might want to take on or take off. Things are set up how people standardly use them, but then you have the ability to customize them depending on what your needs are. So, for example, like down at the bottom, you can have, if I take off one view, you need two views. You can then show the variance field, turn them on and off at will. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go back to the feature. All right, a couple more questions. Can we merge two budgets like an AICP and a CG post budget? To merge budgets, they must have the same accounts. So in that scenario, and I have clients who do this, is what I would do is if you're going to be doing ICP and CGI post or something like that on a regular basis, I would create a template that has AICP. And actually, there is something similar in the program we did, an AICP AIC combo. So if you're going to ever need to put two pieces together like that, create the template so you're always using the same template and you just import it. But when you print, you don't need to print. You can just print the AICP. So that can definitely be done. We are an integrated live action CGVFX commercial shop. So we need AICP, AICE-ish budget. Well, we already have it. There's a template built in. So, and if you can't find it, feel free. I'll give you my contact info and I'll tell you where to get it from. Okay. Is there a way to create different versions of the same budget and show them in comparison on the top summary sheet? Yes, that's a great question. First of all, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. What you can do is create one budget, and then in the phase menu, actually you have to go to the budget tab to do that. But in the phase menu, what I would do is do a budget, let's say in phase 1, and call phase 2, whatever you want to call it, comparison budget, and you can do it a million times. 256 times. And you go ahead to phase and then copy. So then you can copy the whole budget from the first phase to the second and then modify it and make your second version. And you can continue to do that. A lot of people also will use the copy in an episodic scenario. So you can copy your phases. Maybe most of the episodes are similar or close. You start one and then copy it over and then modify, massage them. Okay. Hopefully that answers that. Another question. Can the view be used in multiple budgets or does it have to be created each time? The views, what most people do in that case is set up the view in the template and then just start all the budgets from that, and then you have your views are defaulted. So that's usually, unless you mean something else, that's how you do it. Next question. I also work in different cities and hire local production managers who are familiar with Showbiz. Can you set up a registry of people in different markets who use Showbiz that we could access on your website? I'm glad you mentioned that because that's actually something that was brought up recently, and the fact that you're bringing it up again, we're definitely going to do it. It was the first time it was brought up, believe it or not, was by some clients in Australia. We have a tremendous user base in Australia, and even in the different cities, they want that. So I'm going to work on implementing that so we can put that up. I think that'll be good for the people who post as well as the companies. Thank you for that one. All right. A couple of bug issues. Let's see. Undo doesn't work in comments tab. And actually, that might be possible. That's mostly text. And copy and paste doesn't work well in titles tab. All right, I will check that. As I said, updates, suggestions, or bugs. Now, one of the things I will say is make sure you have the latest version, because as people suggest things, we're updating all the time, and people are on version 9, which is the current version. All those updates are for free. So I will have that checked and get back to you on that. Okay. Let's see what else. Seeing if there are any other questions. No, not right now. So we'll continue. All right. So now we will go ahead and back to the summary. So I think we're pretty much done with the summary, and I'm going to move on to budget in both templates. Now, before jumping directly into the numbers, to make your budget, like a spreadsheet, a lot of people just jump in, throw your numbers in, and honestly, would it work? Sure. Everything would tie out, everything would be added up, and everything would work. But you want to use some of the tools before you finish before you go ahead and start budgeting, because it will speed up the whole process. So you want to use the tools that are built into the program. So I'm going to go through some of the icons, make sure people understand those, and then we'll go into the budget. First icon is my Fringes. Anybody who is budgeting and using payroll, you want to make sure your Fringes are accurate. And this is a feature TV budget, so you'll see the Fringes broken out by individual segment of your Fringes. So state unemployment, union payroll fee, all that broken out, where I'll show you the commercial one in a second. And that's where the biggest difference with an AICP form will be in the fringe area and the crew area. Being that I work on the payroll side of media services as well, one of the things, like half my job all day is I get calls. People are doing budgets and they are asking for rates, and which is smart because you want to make sure you have the accurate rates. Rates are changing all the time. Payroll taxes, obviously, as well as if you're doing union, you want the union Fringes accurately. Okay, so you want to make sure that they're accurate. Now, let's say federal unemployment, which is federal and used everywhere. You would go in and set up a code with federal unemployment, the title. This happens to be the rate. This is the cutoff. The basis is 1. The basis could be quantity times rate. Depends on how your budget is done. You also have the ability to do per unit if you have more, probably in the union side, maybe $100 a day for a contract. So the system, or $12, $13 a day for a contract for the Fringes. So you can set that up as well. A lot of people like to work in percentages, but the program does have the capability for per unit dollars if you need to. Okay. So if you need any of that, obviously we can provide that. Also, any of you don't know, we have Showbiz Labor Guide, and that's on our website. And if anybody needs a link to that, I'll be giving you my contact info. It's actually on our website. Those of you might remember, it was a book that was enormous. Now it's on our website, going green, and keep it updated quicker. And we don't charge for the labor guide. If you're in commercials, some of the information is up there, but that we have a PDF that we email out heavily to our clients, but anybody on here is welcome to it. You also can email me for that as well if you're interested. Okay. Also, for those of you who've been on the program, some new features are here. You can go ahead and add a group, and what that allows you to do, let's say you're budgeting a California job, you can go and click all the California taxes so you can do that group much quicker. Okay, so that was a new tool that was added. Oops, don't want to do that. And I'm going to just close that and cancel that. Also, something else is where used. I can click on any of the Fringes and click where used. It shows all the accounts where it's used, and that's another thing that was added based on feedback from users. So a lot of nice new tools on here, and you can just go ahead and key that all in and set that up. And once you set it up for the project, you're done. You just go through the budget and use it. All right. And just to jump, because it is different in commercials, go into the Fringes, you'll notice the difference. First of all, is a lot less. And that's because most people will budget in flat numbers, flat percentages, because you're not really worried about the cutoffs, because it's a short project where feature and TV are much longer. So here we have, let's say, non-union, and you have non-union code, the name, percentage, cutoff if you wanted to, basis. All this information is the same up until the overtime. And in commercials, people are budgeting overtime often. So, and compared to some of the older programs that we had to do that manually, you can just tell it the length of the day. And in this model, I have it set up time and a half after 8, double after 10, triple after 12. You could also do premium hours. But you can go ahead and set that up, and the system will automatically be able to create your overtime for you, and I'll show you the way that's done. But then you can see you set up codes for DGA. You can set up non-union New York, non-union LA, and so once you have that, you can really do a lot of budgets very quickly. All right, and it has the groups and the where used on this side as well. All right, I'm going to go back to the feature one. Now, one thing just to also let you know, we mentioned the cutoffs in. I'm going to go inside the setup. Now, the reason you have cutoffs is you can go ahead and set up all sorts of different records. For example, like here in the detail, I have the UPM and all the details related to the UPM. Now, if I did not set up what we call ranges, it will calculate cutoffs based on each individual category, okay, which would not make it accurate because it basically would cut off each line separately. What's been added in version 9, which is really handy for features in TV, is the ability to highlight any section, and you see down here we can define a range, a simple or a named range. The simple range is in the same phase, and that's what most people will be using. Named phases would be in various different phases if you're getting really sophisticated. So you just can do a simple range and define it, and the system will calculate the fringes based on the group of aligned details related to that crew member. And you'll notice, see over here, these half circles are telling me that these are all cutting off, okay? Which is good. You don't want to go nuts if you add them up and see that it's not a total of the same percentage, okay? And that's something to get used to if you're not used to it, but it's very important in features in TV. All right, so keep going. We talked about phases. Then we have subgroups. Subgroups are the same in any template. They're used heavily these days for tax incentives. So, for example, you'll see here Michigan tax incentive, Georgia tax incentive, New York. I can use them for whatever. And what that would be used for is to track what's eligible or not eligible, for that matter. It depends on what you're tracking for an individual tax incentive. So this way, when I get audited, and you will get audited for a tax incentive, you want to be able to run reports quickly. And you'll also notice in here, if I set up a New York tax incentive, I can check off exclude everything else if I want to do a quick report on everything that is eligible for the tax incentive. Okay? So these are handy. Tax incentives, what we're seeing heavily now, but I have a client who uses these subgroups for out-of-pocket expenses, and anything that you could think of. People are coming up with all different ways to utilize the subgroups. All right, and when we go in, I'll show you where they are. What we're talking about right now is setting up. All right, then we have globals, and the globals are real handy. You find them that they're used more in features, I would say, because the projects are longer. Simple example of a global would be, let's say, shoot weeks. Let's say you're budgeting shoot weeks of 5, and I have a code SH. That's my shoot weeks. So I can go ahead into a detail line and enter any information up there. But in quantity, it would be SH, W for weeks, 1,000 for the rate. And of course, it came out to 5,000. So it basically is a variable. And anything that's going to be repetitive is handy to use globals for. The reason to use global, let's say I budget 10,000 lines of detail, and I come down to where I'm using 5 weeks, but then I have to add and go to 6 weeks. instead of having to go to 10,000 lines of detail, I can quickly, anywhere I use that variable, change it to 6. All right? So especially if you're doing a lot of what-if scenarios, that becomes really handy to make changes instead of having to go manually change everything. And so, and on larger projects, people use it for, like here, SAG Weekly for a rate. You also will see shoot weeks, which is a compound global, which is SD. It's actually which is shoot days divided by 5. All right. So that's if you have another global like that. But you could do any variable using Excel maths, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction, and make some really sophisticated formulas. Okay? So that is globals. Now, just to jump to the commercial template, and you'll see another difference with globals. You can do all the same type of globals I just showed you, but the first initial globals are related to crew, and you could set up a shoot and a prep based on shoot days. So this is basically setting up the schedule, and we'll go into crew in a second. And you can use the globals there. Okay. So to move on, so now we've talked about views. Jump is just to move around the program. And then just to go into preferences for a second, this is where you can make some changes to preferences, such as some of you old-timers will notice that my toolbar is different than version 8. You can actually go back to the classic one, and there's a few different options now. Autosave is in here, some formatting, and just different options that might be handy. Mostly everything will be fine out of the box, as they say, but if you need to make changes, you can go into that. All right. So now we're ready to go ahead and budget. So I'm going to go into budget, and I'm in the commercial template first. As I said, crew is the only area that's really different. Let's say I was going to do everything. I think I have a U in there. And instead of doing everything, I could go, let's say, 1 by 1 first. So I want to make a change from N, and I want to make it DGA or flat or union. I can go ahead and do that. Let's say I want everybody union instead. Instead of having to go 1 by 1 and checking them off, I can highlight the whole column and hit U, and it will make changes for me. And it will calculate the overtime based on what's set up in the Fringe template. Then over here, you see the globals that I mentioned, and you do the same thing here 1 by 1, or you can go ahead and do P for prep is what I have, and you see that the calendar changes. So everything set up now is a 2-day shoot, 2 10-hour days. So the system knows, let's say I want this to be 2 16-hour days. You'll see that the overtime increases automatically. You'll also notice I had my rates in here because I had set that up automatically in advance. And also up here, for those of you in commercials, especially the features that could happen. Well, no, it won't happen in features on this part of the template. You now have the ability to do half days or decimalized days if you want. Version 8 did not have that capability. You can just go double-click here and change that to whatever you need. Or even if you have a day that's not listed, for example, let's say you need a 13-hour day instead of the 12, I can just go ahead and change that to a 13-hour day. Okay? So that's the crew for commercials. And if you go back to features, most of the feature crew, let's go back, I'm in production staff now, will be budgeted in detail. In this program, you can budget on the count line and just type in a number. Or, for example, like here, demo, I can type in $100 here, and that's fine. But if you look at all the other lines in this section, you'll notice, first of all, that they're underscored. And if they're underscored, that means the detail is being utilized. Okay? So I have down here all my details for that line. and I have that all keyed in detail. You can do either detail or summary, one or the other. You can't do both in a line. Now, also, you have here subgroups. Let's say this person was shooting in Georgia and is eligible for the tax incentive. I can click that. When I run the report, that would be included. Okay. Now, three other things you see here: breakouts. Breakouts is something else that can be set up in tools. It's another way to flag items. Now, the reason that was originally set up, it's a little different than a subgroup, is it's breaking out a portion of a cost. Let's forget this is crew for a second, and let's say I have $14,000. Let's say $100 of that is shooting in Canada is GST, and I want to track $100. So that will track $100 from that invoice. The reason that's used, that I see a lot, is either GST or VAT in Europe, because that's refundable to American producers shooting in Canada or Europe. And you want to keep track of GST in Canada, so this way you can quickly run a report and submit it to Revenue Canada. Okay. The next tab is attachments. That's also new for version 9 for all the users. This allows you to attach any type of graphic file. Usually it's an invoice or a receipt, maybe for petty cash. So any graphic file you can now attach to the transaction. That will allow you to create a wrap report with all your information, and then print reports with it if you'd like. Okay. All right. All right, so that's crew. Now let's go to a non-crew area. And I'm going to jump back to commercials. And let's say I go to a non-crew area. And let's say here I have casting facility. I can key in anything. Again, a flat figure. Or let's say I like car rental, and I want to enter a transaction in detail. Enterprise. Okay. Let's say I like enterprise rental for that. And let's say I just want to summarize it on this. And I'll put $1,000 in. Now that's in there. And you'll notice that I typed an E and it brought in enterprise. Reason for that is there is a central vendor database. Any vendor or crew member that's entered into the name area will go into the central vendor database. So this way, anytime I type in the vendor, beginning of the letters, it will fill it in for me. And I'll go into that in a minute so you can see the vendor database. And depending on the size of your company, it will be how much you use it. A lot of people, low budget people, use it a lot. And it's also good handy if you're using POs. Every transaction I enter enters a detail down here, and it includes it in the budget, and obviously will be added to the summary page. Okay. Now, talking about the vendor database, I'm just going to go over to File and Vendor Database. Here you'll see all the vendors that are in your database. And if I go down, I'll find Enterprise, which I have somewhere. Here we go. And you'll notice I don't have the address, but I can do 123 Main Street. And let's say New York. And whatever. And then you put as much information as you want. Now, if you're a company that has an accounting department, you're not going to need to put any more info. That's fine. But you might want to put information. You might want to put in some rates. You also might want to go ahead and modify some of these fields. You double-click and change the title, like I did here. Now, modifiable title, I typed that in. Now, a lot of people do low-budget features or low-budget projects. This does all their tracking for them. So their tracking insurance certificate was submitted. Are they a corporation eligible for 1099? So you have all that information. So that's very handy. So I can then set that up, and then I can go ahead and run reports and print reports out of here based on the different fields that I have. And if you flag a field, let's say anybody eligible for 1099, I can print that out. I also have an export option here. So if you import or export, you can, let's say I have a great database and my new person doesn't, I can export my database to them. so they don't have to key theirs from scratch. Okay. Now, also, what I have is while we're on this file menu, is I have import export, and here we're going to go ahead and actually let me just go. I'm going to go to feature for a second. And hold on one second. Just got a quick question. Did you say the move to version 9 from 8.8.5 is a free upgrade? You have a multi-license. No, 8.8.5, anything from 8 to 9 is a paid upgrade. And for a multi-license, for a 5 user, just I can tell everybody, just so you know, is $409 for the upgrade. It gets cheaper as you do multi-packages. And the system will know with your proof of purchase code how many licenses you have. If you don't know that code, you can go ahead. You can email me and I can get you that code. All right. All right. So to continue, while we're here on the file import export, we'll go to import and have a lot of import export. We keep adding to this. If you're using Media Services Payroll, you can go ahead and import from our payroll service, and we'll provide a file for you, and you can import it right into your system. If you're not using Media Services, feel free to call me, and I can take care of that for you. Then we also have Showbiz Budgeting, which allows you to merge in the information, and that allows you to merge between two different budgets. Common scenario, similar to a question that came in earlier, that allows you to merge two budgets. So if I did a budget and you did a budget, we want them in different phases, you can import that in. So that saves you a lot of time. Those of you who work with people still on Movie Magic, you can import a budget file from there. It doesn't bring in everything, but it brings in the chart of accounts and the budget amounts. It doesn't bring in the sub information like global tables or fringe tables. As I mentioned earlier, from point 0, we import the actuals. Also, those of you using Showbiz time cards, we import from Showbiz time cards as well. And you actually can also, we now have Showbiz time cards online. You can import into Showbiz time cards and bring that information into the actual if you want to. We also have a purchase card. P card can be imported. Those of you who don't know this, a lot of people sometimes don't. We now have a Showbiz PC envelope, and that allows you to, that's a shareware module on our website. And if you're a company that has the program, you can give that out to people who don't, and they can key in their own petty cash envelopes, and that can be uploaded back to you so you don't have to key it. Okay? There's also mobile apps like Cash Trails where you can do petty cash. Using Media Web, we can upload the budgets to our Media Web accounting. Lightspeed, we can import from Lightspeed Schedule. You can export to QuickBooks Online. And recently, and this is brand new, some of you, even on version 9, might not have it, so you want to make sure you're on the latest version. We now have an import from the American Express site for your American Express bill. Now, the issue with it is it brings down whole bill at that time. If you have multiple projects, it's not as worthwhile. But if you're working on one project at the time, you can bring in the information. You just obviously have to put the line numbers in there or account numbers. Okay? A question came up. If my accountant uses Media Services PO system, how do I import these? That actually does not happen yet. We are working on that as you speak. That has been brought up. A lot of people using our PO system, online PO system. I assume that's the one you're talking about. And they want to bring it into Showbiz. So we're working on that. There's a lot of requests for that. Is there an import from QuickBooks? Yes. That is at the bottom. And you have to go through to import the whatchamacallit, I call it a bridge, um, but there's a program called Transaction Pro, which creates a file. It grabs the information um, from QuickBooks and creates a file that we can import. We're just beginning to, people are starting to play around with it, but we created that in version 9. Okay. All right, and while we're in the export, here's all the export options, and Excel, cash flows, our accounting system, Media Web, and also those of you who don't know it, who are on version 9, can save a file into version 8. So if you have somebody who's not on 9 yet, you can save a file that they can read. Okay, so that some people weren't aware that that's there, and that's actually very handy. All right, so that's import export, and I'll be honest, I know we're going through this fast, a lot of information. If you have questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll complete this. And just be aware, we're actually going to try to create some advanced training as well. First time we're going to be doing that is next month in LA, and then we'll go online with it. Does tab delimited mean the file will be broken into tabs within Excel? That is, it allows it to do that. Tab delimited means there's tabs between the files, which allows Excel as well as a million other programs to upload it. Yes, that's what tab delimited. It makes it easier for programs to bring in the fields. All right, so let's go on. There's a lot more to go through. So that pretty much covers the budgeting side. I'm not going to take you through every single account because I still want to get through the actualization. If anybody has any questions on budgeting before I proceed, key it in. Otherwise, we'll just move on to actualization. So now we're going to continue on the tabs because that's really the flow of the program. And the first tab we have is purchase orders. If you are on a purchase order system, you can key in your purchase orders, and you can go ahead and save the information. So what I have the ability to do, I'm going to go into an existing PO, make it easier. I can key in a PO, and let's say this was enterprise. I'm going to go ahead and it brings in the address. So if you're going to print POs or PDF them from here, it'd be good to put in the address into the vendor master. All right, this way it will show up on your PO. You can use the POs 3 ways. You have the capability to set it up and put in the information, the logo, company information, header, and footer, and this will allow you to print your POs. You also can PDF them. That's the second way. And the third way, if you're on the old paper way, you can just use it as a log and key in the information, which is not a problem. So you key in the header information up here. Also, some of you older users, there are some new fields here. We added status, so you can track based on status. Is it open? Is it closed? So that's something people were asking for. With Federal ID, you can print down here. Once you enter in all the information, you then can go ahead and enter any type of transaction. Some people enter POs as projections because you don't know the information yet. Some people might use it as a check log and key in check information. So you see here, I have invoice number, check number. Also, another thing to point out to old users, you can now do invoice numbers and check numbers on the same transactions. The older version 8, you did not have that. And go ahead and so you have all these transactions to enter the information, and we can click OK. Now also, one of the new things while we're here, let's say I wanted to do a new line for gas. I think I have gas in this one, and I can now bring it down. A new feature that was added was the ability to, if you don't know the chart of accounts well, just type in the beginning or part of a word and just hit the pull down. It will bring all accounts relative to that word. That was something a lot of people were asking for in the older versions. Really handy. Actually, we have to document this because it's not really documented yet. But that's a handy tool, and then I can just select the account and move forward. Okay, and I can click OK, and you'll see down here all the detail. Everything is actualizing automatically. If I go to the lines, they're there right away. I don't have to do any of this merging or anything. It's automatically there. Question came up. Would this replace check log in ASCP older docs? If you're doing, does not have to, but it basically is where you can enter your check log and basically automatically create your check log for you and automatically actualize out for you. So it can, yes, and it will create the check log, and I'll show that to you in a second when we get to that. So that's the POs. And next is your petty cash. And I mentioned that you can import the petty cash. So it would be imported by envelope. You see all these different people here. And this is brought in from, let's say they were imported. So that brings the envelope by envelope. Now, the way to start an envelope, let's say you guys were giving me petty cash. So I do initials, but some people do numbers. That's up to you. Let's see, SB2, because there was an SB. S. All right, put my name, department, whatever. Next, I'm going to do a transfer. And here we have date, PO number, check number, amount. So let's say I'm given $10,000 and initial PC. All right, and then we have company information, and we then have, now I shouldn't say company, this is in from the company. So you can, the money is coming in from the company, or I can bring it in from anybody on the job. So some people will give everybody money from the company. Some people will take the money from the company to the PM and then distribute it all from there. That's up to you. Either way is fine. All right, once the money is out, I now have $10,000 in the initial transaction. My balance is $10,000. I can look on the whole envelope, on the whole petty cash log. Down here, you see the distribution of all the envelopes. Now I'm going to go ahead. I spent some money. I want to account for it. I'm going to go ahead and add expenses. And what I can do is now I would select, by adding my expenses, I can select the phase. So you put it in whatever phase. If you do locations, if you do whatever your phases are, the actual phase, one of the actual phases. And then I would pick an account, and let's say BREA, maybe have breakfast. No, that might not have it. Per diem. Yeah, per diem. So let's go with that. And I select that account, and then I can expense that out. And let's just put $500. Expensive meals, and click OK. And now it reduces down my balance. And I'm going to continue to add expenses. Let's say I want to go back to gas. And we know that's there. Select that. Put $1,000 gas. Expense it out. And then I'll go on and zero that out until all my receipts. Now I might have some cash left. Here I have $8,500. I'm going to add transfer out to, and whoever I'm giving my cash back to. I have balance is $8,500, so I have $8,500 cash, and I'm going to go back to the company, and that zeroes it out. Okay, so you always want to have everybody zero out, and then I can click OK, and now I'm done, and that's expensed out, and it's all in the system. Quick question came up. Will you add an EFT button on your PC transfer screen? EFT. Oh. No, that, let me say something. Well, the reason we don't do that is, but actually is a question. Because I assume you're doing wires is why you're asking. Let's see. Because right now we have the check number But nobody's ever brought that one up to you. You're doing good today, Jordan. But you want to do, I assume, direct EFTs to the people instead of cash for PC. I'll check into that. All right. See about that. Thank you. And all right. So instead of using a check, using EFTs. So yeah, that makes sense. All right. I'll see what I can do about that. All right. So that's petty cash. That pretty much takes care of that. And second to last tab is the detail browser. Now, if you're not using POs, I run into some companies who don't. You can add all your expenses in here directly. You see all the transactions here and put it in all the information. If not, if you're a PO-based company, most of your transactions will probably go through POs and petty cash. But you can add expenses here. Depends on how you do it. You also can sort at the top of every field here. This is a handy tool. I can run reports from here. I could also click on, let's say, time card and filter. And now I can filter that out. And that gives me the option to filter and then run all sorts of reports on there. And on the right side, you have toggles so you can run different logs. So you can create any of the logs here and then print them or edit them. Also, one of the other things that you can do here, I don't know if people have done, is you can copy and paste between different detail browsers. So let's say I'm a PM and or actually, let's say I'm a coordinator and I keyed in all the credit card information. I can go ahead and highlight them and just go ahead and paste them into the detail browser of any of my files. And a lot of people do that if you work in teams. That allows you to go ahead and merge. So let's say I'm a coordinator, I'm doing all the POs, another coordinator is doing all the payroll, and so forth. And then you can merge that all back to the PM's file so you have a master file. So that is something that a lot of people use. You can do import-export, but more people seem to like the detail browser. Okay. So that's the detail browser, real powerful. And then the last tab you have is the calendar. Calendar is a standalone module, really. It's part of the program, I should say, but it's an independent module. You do calendars, doesn't really integrate. Though we added this a couple years ago, and now everybody wants more and more from it. It's a great option. And you can key in any information here, double-click any day. Let's say travel day, or you want to do cash flow, whatever. You can type in any information you want and run reports off of it. So there's a lot of information that can be tracked here. And so you key that in, and then I can zoom in or out however many weeks I want to see. And then I can run reports in my calendar. So this is the calendar. What a lot of people are asking for is to put in banners, graphics, and more. There's more things like that we hope to do. All right, so that's everything in here. Also be aware, one thing I mentioned the labor guide earlier. It's now, you have a button on, once you register for the labor guide, you click on it and it goes right to a labor guide. I'm registered, so I just click enter and it opens up with all the rates that I might be interested in. All right, so that's right here. So I'll give you the information if anybody is in need of that. All right, you see all the rates that you might need. And that's obviously real handy for budgeting. Okay. All right, and last but not least, we have, let's go to print. And this is where you have print. You have your budget. You can print your budget right here. You also have, this is handy, a lot of people ask for this, the inactive rates, inactive accounts. So if you're not using accounts and you don't want to show them, you can have them hide. And otherwise you can leave it on inactive rates, or that's what most people leave it on. You can attach logos, non-zero, so only sections you're using, or all. That goes for any of the templates. Then you have detail reports, and you can run detail reports on any transaction, subtotal it, filter it out. You also have purchase orders, check logs, breakouts, course reports, petty cash. Now, just to show you, we have the course report here, and I'm just going to run a quick one, but only the numbers, just to show it. You can run a quick course report here. On any preview, you can see the preview, where there's a button for raw text, and that, a lot of people aren't aware that's there either. That allows you to dump your data or report to Excel. It was created for the course report. It works really well with the course report. It works with most of the reports. They don't always come out formatted perfectly, but it gives you tab delimited files to bring into Excel. Okay? So that is print, and then you have all the different options. And last but not least is the calendar reports. So you have all different calendar reports here, and you can print those out as well. All of the files can be PDF'd. So if you have people who are not on the program, you can PDF them reports. And all the reports will go to PDF. All right. So do we have any last questions as we're coming close to the end to wrapping this up? If you think of questions later on, which happens all the time, you can feel free to email or call. My email is steve@media-services.com. Okay. And I will, one of the things people are asking for, I'm going to do this before we end, is I'm going to show you the login on the, to register for the website for the labor guide. So this way you can just jump in there directly. Any of you commercial people, you'll have to email me because it's not on the website. And that's the commercial union guide. The rest of it's on the website for features and TV, and it's free access. We don't charge for it anymore. Okay. So as I said, I gave you my phone and email, steve@media-services.com. All right. And if you need any information on the software or payroll for that matter, you're always welcome to check in with me. Send me an email. Question came up, how do you know when there's an updated version? If you're on version 9, you can go to the Showbiz Budgeting menu. There is a button there. Check for latest version. As well as when we post new versions periodically, your program will automatically warn you that there's new upgrades. You don't have to update, but you can. And let me just go ahead and give you the location on our website for media-service.com, and you can go I think it's software. Yep, software, Showbiz software, Showbiz labor guide, free. All right, they made sure that was clear. And you can then go on and register for that. It's free, and just register, and it automatically will send you a labor guide password for your use. Okay. Again, Steve Bizanob, 917-305-8309, or steve@media-services.com. Thank you for coming. We will do more webinars, and I hope to post this webinar. And if, as I said, anybody has questions later on, feel free to contact me. Thank you, everybody, for coming.